They're trying to forget. They do everything possible to keep their mind occupied, avoid memories, suffocate any reminders. But none of it is working. Just a longer silence. And everything comes rushing back. The presence that hasn't left. The name that keeps echoing. It's as if the absence has turned into a companion. They didn't want to feel. It wasn't planned or allowed. But it happened. And now they can't pretend it's not there. Reason tries to convince, get over it, it's in the past. But the heart insists on holding on to what shouldn't hurt anymore. There's a war happening between what should be right and what has already been felt. And deep down, no matter how much they try to escape, they already know running away is no longer an option. Because what started without intention has become part of everything. The silence that reveals what words hide. They're trying to maintain their routine, doing what needs to be done, keeping to schedules, smiling when necessary. But when the day slows down, when the noise ceases, everything slips out of control. The name still surfaces, in distracted thoughts, in the emptiest spaces. It's almost involuntary, as if it's there, hidden behind every little pause. And it's precisely in that gap between what is said and what is felt that the conflict resides. It's not nostalgia. It's something denser, harder to explain, a presence that remains alive even after so many attempts at absence. Failed attempts to forget. They've tried to erase it. They've blocked, uninstalled, pretended it didn't matter. They've avoided places, changed routes, filled their time. They've done everything to forget, or at least to seem like they have. But forgetting takes more than external actions, it's internal. And what's inside doesn't let itself be controlled so easily. Because forgetting something that still pulses is like trying to silence a voiceless scream. You can try, but it will never be complete. And with each frustrating attempt, what's left is exhaustion and more pain. The body remembers, even when the mind lies. The body knows, even when the mind denies it. Even when reason shouts that it's over, that it's in the past, that it doesn't make sense anymore. The heart races for no reason when it hears something familiar. The hands tremble when seeing a similar name. And the eyes betray. They search unwittingly. They hope without saying a word. It's a subtle movement, almost imperceptible. But it's real, because the body holds on to what words try to hide. It wasn't supposed to be anything, and it was everything. It didn't start as something big. In fact, it wasn't even meant to begin. It was a quick glance, a casual conversation, nothing special. But time did what it always does, transformed the simple into the inevitable. What was light became heavy. What was a distraction turned into dependence. And now what remains is this internal chaos that no one sees. It wasn't love at first sight. It was worse. It was love after the resistance, after fighting against it, after denying it. And this kind of love, it doesn't fade away. Reason shouts, but feeling persists. Reason repeats, move on. It says it was just a misstep, that it's past time to end this, that all of this is a waste of time. But the heart doesn't understand logic. It answers in silence, with longing, with memories, with dreams that still insist on happening. And this discrepancy between what one thinks and what one feels becomes a battlefield, where there are no winners. Just someone trying to survive what has already spiraled out of control, the invisible presence that won't leave. Even far away, it's still present, in random songs, in stray phrases, in fleeting scents. Even without contact, it still leaves a mark. In choices that wouldn't make sense to anyone else, in the details that only those who feel understand. It's like a ghost that doesn't scare, but it also doesn't let you be at peace, because this invisible presence doesn't need permission to exist. It simply is. And this being is what hurts the most. The fear of admitting. There is a deep fear of admitting what one still feels, because admitting it would mean accepting that all the effort to move forward has failed. It would mean acknowledging that something that should have ended is still alive. And more than that, it would mean facing the risk of reliving everything, of hurting again, of getting lost once more in something that may not even exist anymore. So silence is chosen, denial, forced control, even when inside everything is in ruins. No one knows what's happening inside. People look and think everything is fine. They think you've moved on, they think it wasn't such a big deal. But no one sees the sleepless nights, the messages written and deleted, the attempts to distract yourself with anything to avoid thinking. Silent suffering is the cruelest, because no one understands, no one listens. And because of that, no one helps. You're left alone. And what truly hurts is knowing that the feeling remains, even when the other person has already left. Time is passing, and nothing changes. The days go on, the weeks pass, but the feeling remains, as if something was interrupted but not resolved, as if the story is on pause. And all you can do is try not to remember that there's still an ending missing. They say time heals, but sometimes time only widens the empty space, and that emptiness has a name. You can't run away anymore. There comes a point where you can't run anymore. There are no more excuses, distractions, or arguments to uphold the lie. The feeling is there, whole, painful, persistent, begging to be acknowledged, even if it's never reciprocated. Running away is no longer an option, because fleeing now is what binds you the most. What to do with what's still left? What's left? There are memories that refuse to die, feelings that don't know where they fit, a presence that has become part of the routine even without being close. There's a desire left to go back, to understand, to at least have a clear ending. But until that happens, you're left to live with this almost, with this present absence, with this nameless pain, because nothing is resolved yet. This person is struggling, trying, worn out. There's no longer any strength to hide what insists on existing. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter how hard they try. The feeling remains there, motionless, almost cruel. She doesn't speak, doesn't show it, but she feels. And while she tries to pretend she has forgotten, the truth is she never stopped remembering. When absence becomes part of the person. Over time, absence stops being an interval. It becomes identity. The lack shapes behaviors. It affects the way she speaks, her involuntary gestures, her reactions to little things. It's as if part of her has been ripped away, and instead of trying to replace it, she simply adapted to the empty space. She learned to function with less warmth, less affection, less truth. But not by choice, by adaptation, by survival. The fear of allowing herself again. So much was felt in silence that now there is even fear of the possibility of feeling again, not because she doesn't want to, but because she knows the cost. Trusting again would be opening the door to a new emptiness. Surrendering again would require reliving everything that still hurts, so she closes herself off, avoids, pretends she doesn't need it. But the truth, even if muffled, doesn't disappear. The absence of that connection weighs more than the fear of pain. Life goes on, but stays still inside. On the outside, everything is moving. New projects, new faces, new distractions. But inside, everything is still, frozen in a time that won't come back. It's as if the internal clock got stuck the moment something broke and has never been able to keep up with the rhythm of life around. The person moves on, but without real presence, without spark in her eyes, without truth in her smile. Silent comparisons that no one sees. No one knows, but each new connection is sabotaged by memories, by invisible comparisons, by questions that have no answers. Why isn't it the same yet? Why doesn't it touch the same way? Why does everything seem less? It's unfair, but inevitable, because when something has left such a deep mark, everything else seems pale, weak, incomplete. And so everything that could be is born defeated. What no one says, but everyone feels, no one talks about this kind of feeling, about what lingers when the other person is gone, about the mourning of those who are still alive but absent. It's a denied mourning, silent, unauthorized, as if only legitimate pain exists when there's a declared ending. But there was no ending here. There was silence, distance, disappearance. And what do you do with a love that hasn't died, only been ignored? She still waits without knowing she waits. There's a hidden waiting there, a wait that she doesn't even admit to herself. It's not on the agenda, it doesn't have a scheduled time, but it's there. In the subtext of the day, in the empty stares, in the short replies. In the phone that insists on being checked, even when there's no notification. It's a wait disguised as independence. But the heart never lied. The belief that somewhere there's still reciprocity. Even after everything, there remains an absurd yet innocent belief that perhaps in some corner of the other person's life there's still something, a thought, a longing, a hesitation before sleeping. It's irrational, but it's what keeps the flame alive, because if even that didn't exist, the emptiness would be unbearable. The shame of still feeling. There is shame. Yes, shame for still thinking, for still wanting, for still getting emotional when remembering, as if it were weakness, as if feeling deeply were a mistake. But it's not weakness, it's humanity. And this imposed shame is what prevents many from freeing themselves, because the weight of still loving is heavier when you feel alone in it. When love becomes a crime love, which was once a refuge, has now become the accused, it's being judged, as if it were the problem, as if feeling too much caused all of this. And then you try to punish your own feeling, diminish it, deconstruct it. But love does not accept being dismantled. It either exists, or it corrodes from within when you try to smother it. What was never said still hurts. There are phrases stuck in the throat, words that were never spoken, sentences interrupted by distance, truths never confessed. And what goes unsaid hurts more than what was said wrong, because it carries the weight of uncertainty, of what if, of maybe, of it could still be. This person lives daily with ghosts that they themselves prevented from being born. The possibility of a fresh start is far away. Start over? How can you, when the old feelings still take up so much space? Any step forward feels like a betrayal of what still pulses. Any attempt to move on seems to deny everything that has been felt, and the truth is cruel. There's no possible fresh start unless there is a true end. And here, there has never been an end. Only silence, only absence. There's no manual for forgetting who became part of you. Forgetting someone who has passed is one thing. Forgetting someone who stayed inside even without being near is another. Because this person was not just someone. They were a trigger, they were a refuge, they were confusion. They were all that broke you, but also taught you. There's no manual to erase what has become part of you. There is no effective technique, only time. And sometimes, not even that is enough. A part will always remain. It may be that one day the name stops hurting. It may be that the memories become less vivid. It may be that all of this turns into just a forgotten dot amid so many stories. But a part will always remain. A detail in the gaze. A taste that no one else will have. A feeling that doesn't repeat itself. And it's in this small part that the presence endures, discreet but eternal. Reality became smaller. After that, something changed. The world seems the same, but it's not. The colors are there, but without brightness. The days pass, but without presence. Nothing is as intense as it was before. Things have lost a bit of their flavor, their textures, their layers. And no one understands, because on the outside everything remains the same. But inside the reality has shrunk. It's not depression, it's not weakness, it's mourning for something that still pulses. Peace has become unattainable. Before there was silence that embraced. Now the silence screams. Even in moments of calm there's restlessness. Even with the body at rest, there's fatigue that doesn't fade. It's like carrying a weight that's never named but is always present. Nothing truly relaxes. Nothing distracts completely. Because no matter how much time passes, peace was left behind, where that feeling was still whole. Future relationships are already born wounded. There's a subtle, yet real, block. Every new attempt to get close to someone is met with involuntary comparisons, with unconscious resistances, with fear, not of the other, but of oneself. Because now there's a fear of feeling too much, of getting lost again, of committing to something that has no guarantees. So everything that could be born again is already born wounded, limited, controlled. As if loving again were a risk that no one dares to take. Time doesn't erase, it only teaches to disguise. They say time heals, but time only teaches to camouflage. The pain shifts location. It leaves the eyes, enters the stomach. It leaves the speech, enters the gestures. You learn to smile even while it hurts, to respond "I'm fine" even when everything is in ruins. And over time, people believe it. And that's what hurts the most. No one sees it anymore, no one asks anymore. No one realizes that the feeling still lives. The idea of love has corrupted love, once a refuge, is now a threat. You no longer believe so easily. You don't give yourself to it with the same truth. Something has broken, not in the other, inside. Loving has ceased to be freedom. It has become instability, discomfort, anxiety about losing it before you even have it. And the worst part? This distrust isn't against anyone. It's against your own heart. When loving becomes an act of courage today, loving again requires something that almost no one has. Courage. Courage to feel, to trust, to not run away at the first sign of pain. Because those who love too much are even afraid of what is good. Having suffered so much from what seemed light, now the heart builds defenses against anything that touches too deeply. And this kills possibilities. It sabotages meetings. It pushes away the right people due to the trauma caused by the wrong ones. No one will understand, and that's okay. There's a time when you stop trying to explain. No one will really understand. They won't understand why a song still hurts, why a certain date still bothers you, why your heart races upon hearing a name that reminds you. They will think it's an overreaction, drama, a lack of maturity, but it's not. Say it's just the real weight of a feeling that truly existed. In a world where almost no one feels fully, there's a part of them that never left. Even without contact, even with distance, even with other people around. There's something of them that remains. A way of looking, a sudden scent, a specific memory that still surfaces without being called. It's not romanticizing. It's not a desire to turn back time. It's just a realization. Not everything leaves when a person goes. Some pieces settle in and continue to live there, as if they've made a home. Nothing ended because nothing was completed. Perhaps the worst part wasn't the departure, it was the lack of closure. No resolution, no real conversation, no final chance to say what needed to be said. Everything stayed suspended, unfinished, like a movie that cuts off before the last scene. And that's what prevents moving on, the feeling that there was still something to be lived, or, at least, said. And even so, there's still care. No matter how much it hurts, no matter how much you try to erase it, there's still a silent care. There's no wish for harm. There's no anger, just absence. You still think fondly. You still wish them well, even without knowing where they are. Even without wanting to go back. Because when love is real, it doesn't turn to hate. It turns to silence. Acceptance is a solitary process. No one is going to drive this process. There are no shortcuts, no advice that will work. All that's left is to accept. Accept that the other person isn't coming back. Accept that the feeling will linger for an undetermined amount of time. Accept that perhaps loving also means losing. And that's not a weakness. It's just part of being human. What's left now is learning to coexist. There is no quick fix. There is no complete closure. There is coexistence. With the memories, with the unanswered questions, with the feeling that still breathes. The pain doesn't disappear, it just changes places, and the person learns to carry it, without pride, without shame, just with truth. If you've felt this way, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, and give it a like now.